the story that I went through, having gone through my own health scare, working in a law firm as a business development person and business professional within law firms, I think having gone through that leading up to COVID, which not that anybody can prepare for what COVID brought us, but it helped. But having gone through that, that scare and going to the ER and finding out that I was going through a major panic attack and then getting into emotional intelligence really kind of helped me get down the road of understanding where the disconnect between law firms and fun was and well-being was. Because once I started digging into the emotional intelligence data and the research around law and emotional intelligence, one, lawyers have the second lowest emotional intelligence, so that's a problem. And second of all, like the fact that there's a lack of resilience and a lack of all these different elements that are crucial to survival was terrifying to me. And in talking with more and more attorneys, and then also doing podcasts and doing speaking engagements and things like that, I would have attorneys like quietly reach out, either meetings, which I'm now thinking one of the funniest, saddest meetings I've ever had, but also would just message me privately and say, thank you for saying this, because
Right.
nobody's talking about this kind of stuff. So I think having gone through that and then hitting COVID, and then there was this, what I would call, I think COVID, the best thing for COVID for the legal industry was the fact that it humanized everybody really quickly. Because then even the most type A, hard-nosed, armor shell people realize, oh crap, like I'm there's a human in here and it's panicking and suffering. I got to do something about that. So the fact that attorneys, different organizations, different law firms, like I worked for some law firms that dove headfirst into their attorney well-being. And so I think it broke open the conversation. And now what I've been doing since then has been directly aligned with the idea that it even became a conversation. So the fact that people all of a sudden started talking about it. Now, some people revert back to the old habits? Of course they did, because it's safe, because it's predictable, and it's less vulnerable. But now the industry has opened up greatly, not as much as it should. And that's why you and I just align on this topic so well, that we have to continue hammering the message of emotional intelligence, of happiness, of resilience, of well-being, of mental health well-being, all of the things. And so that's why, like, not only because we're both hilarious, but because we both have hearts in this fight, like that. And that is why you and I just
Yeah,
aligned so
all of
perfectly.
that. And I think we also both have I mean, you mentioned you thought you were having a heart attack. It was a panic attack, but we both have had our own experiences with
Mm-hmm.
being part of the legal industry, and having it really negatively impact our physical health, our mental health. And I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you lost somebody.
Yeah. So, I had an attorney that unfortunately committed suicide. And not that anybody is really predictable when they come to that decision tree where that's the option, or that's the only option in their mind. But I think it's even more painful when it's the last person you would think would do it. And so when if you were to line up all of my attorneys and say, okay, if you were to pick one person out of this roster that you think could do it, that would be at high risk, and then who would be at the lowest risk, he would have been absolutely as close to the bottom of the risk spectrum as possible. So the fact that that happened was devastating. And it was, not that you ever see it coming really, but this truly was a blindsided blow. But it was between those kinds of things. I had attorneys that were addicts of different substances. I've had attorneys that have had mental breakdowns. I have had attorneys that have come into my office and shut the door and have just literally fallen apart and cried in my office because they felt safe to do so. But the pressure that our industry has on it, whether self-inflicted or just, historically, this is just the way that this industry operates, and the pressure that's put upon, like it's just this house of cards. And I think, again, the more that individuals like you and I and organizations invest more in it, it's solidifying. But we have a long way to go, and the conversation cannot stop. It needs to pick up pace. It needs to pick up depth. And the more vulnerable I have conversations, or the more vulnerable the conversations I have with firms or attorneys or organizations, it all comes back to the idea, and this may come as a shocker
What?
to some people, we're all human. Like, you went into law school as a human, you came out a human, but maybe you covered some things up, or protected yourself because you had to be on your game and had to be perfect and had to get everything right. And you had to become type A and you had to become, as aligned with perfection as possible, while also maybe ignoring the fact that perfection is not possible. Honestly, I mean, like I've never seen anybody not argue something. So when we think everything is perfect, there's an argument of why it's not. So it's an industry that needs it more than any, other than healthcare, because it's the number one industry that struggles with it. But I can't be more passionate about what I'm doing based on the things that I've seen historically, based on the people that I've lost, either to fatality or to substance abuse. Like it's just, we need to keep talking about it.